assume. I noticed that. We're never man. Really?
Everything down your way.
Gone now.
There's a jake break.
Gotta get rid of that four-way stop sign out there. They won't have jake brake problems.
I'm going to start things off with the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Moment of silence. All right, thank you very much. Got a unique transmission coming in there. All right. Start off with citizen concerns, and this is concerns not already on the agenda. Any concern? Go ahead. All right, and be sure to say your name and everything up at the microphone there.
My name is John Thomas. I'm with the Hungry Canyons Alliance. And the Hungry Canyons Alliance Executive Committee has asked that I go to all the county board meetings.
Is that one of ours, or? Okay, hit it.
Just thank you for your past support. The Hungry Canyons gets about $450,000 in state funding annually, and the vast majority of that, 90% of it, in most years, 95 this year, 95% goes towards construction. So the board, Hungry Canyons board, has been slowly increasing the amount of county dues that we've been requesting. 10 years ago it was $2,000. This last year it was $3,750. This next year we're requesting $4,000. And so I cover a 19 county area. I'm the only employee, so those county dues basically are the lifeblood of the administration. And on the last page, I just thought I'd go over some of the projects we've done, cost shared on recently. The top two photos, one's a weir, an old EWP weir in June 2016 after a big flood event out on Wolf Creek. And then right next to it is the structure as it's been repaired in December 2017. The flume on the left-hand side below that was replaced with a drop inlet structure to to the right of it in April 2016. Two set of photos right below that. There was a reinforced concrete box culvert that went underneath that roadway, and we added a drop inlet to it, and so we could pond water up and control that gully. And then the bottom photo shows another flume that's been replaced with a double barrel flume outlet. And so these are just the projects that Hunger Keenan's cost share is on. We provide cost share on 80% of the grade control portion for any project that provides grade control. And the Woodbury County Secondary Roads Department makes an application. We review it, approve it, make an agreement with the county, and get reimburse you guys when the project's over. And that's all it is in a nutshell. So if you have any questions, you can either ask me or contact me, or also you can contact the Woodbury County Secondary Roads Department. So it's just an informational thing. So thank you.
We are at 4:35.
The agenda real quick. I'll move the approval of the agenda.
Second.
All right, we have motion by Raddick, second by Young. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, passes 5-0.
Mr. Chair, I move that we'd receive this.
Oh, yeah, second that. Motion by Taylor, second by Raddick to receive this item from Hunger Canyons. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, now moving on to our 4:35 set time. That's opening of bids for county farm cash lease located at sections 14 and 23. Go ahead and that's Heather. Yeah, it's funny now that Malloy's not here for his budget. Those things go haywire, you know.
We received a total of 4 bids. First one is Tyler Farms. This is for $295 per acre. Second one is for Whiskey Creek Partnership. They wish to bid $307.12 per acre, or an annual rent payment of $62,498.92. Third one is for Bruce Willems. This is for $325 an acre for a total lease bid of $13,530.
Is that possibly for the other one?
I was going to say, is that for the other section?
It shows the legal description for 203 acres for the, it says 203.5 acres at $325 an acre, but I think that total lease bid may be incorrect.
Should be 66,137 total lease.
What do you go with in that situation, Joshua?
Well, I anticipate that at the end we would refer the bids to the board office and our office for review, and we can sort that out.
Just math wasn't a strong point.
fourth bid is for Mark Westphalen for a bid of $273 an acre. And it says a total of $55,555.50.
So with a potential misbid, then I think we do refer these on.
We always refer them on, and then if there's a question, we'll refer it to Joshua, and then we always ask for a letter of credit.
And we'd come back at a later date for a formal award.
So moved.
Second.
So motion by Taylor, second by DeWitt to receive those bids. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, now we're on to our 4:40 set time, which is item number 10, opening of bids for county farm cash lease located at Section 1, Township 88 North, in the Kendron Township.
We also received 4 bids. First one is Jacob Collins, a bid of $272 per acre. It says total lease $11,152. Second one is in cursive. I think the name is Josh Allen. For a bid of $290 per acre, the total bid of $11,890. Third bid is from Kyle Schneckoloth for $285 per acre. Fourth and final bid is from Bruce Willems. $330 an acre for a total lease bid of $13,530.
All right, I'll move to receive those.
Second.
Motion by Raddick, second by Taylor to receive the bids. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? All right.
Mr. Chair. Dennis, do you know what we have budgeted for farm lease ground and revenue for this year? Or?
$73,000 for next year, so we're a little less.
So this could potentially be a gain. We'll see.
Going the wrong direction.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So moving back to items 5 through 8 constitute a consent agenda, routine action items to be considered by one motion. Items passed unanimously unless a separate vote is requested by a board member. Item 5, approval of the minutes of the January 2nd, 2019 meeting. Item 6, approval of claims. Item 7, board administration, A, approval of lifting tax suspension for petitioners who failed to recertify their income or income does not qualify for continued tax suspension. And B, approval of resolution for a tax suspension for initials SC. 8, human resources, approval of memorandum Memo of personnel transactions, let's go with that. And B, authorization to initiate hiring process.
I move approval of the consent agenda.
Second?
All right, motion by DeWitt, second by Taylor for the approval of consent agenda. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, so that means we're moving on to item 11, which is presentation of award certificate to Carla Polly, which, do I have that?
He's not gonna be here though.
Okay. Read certificate of award, 4 hours of paid time off awarded to Carla Polly for the generous donation of 7 gallons to the LifeServe Blood Center. And we give that to you then, or just, okay, sounds good. Thank you, Carla. 7 gallons of blood that's desperately needed. Item 12, approval of and presentation of proclamation for Slavery and Human Trafficking Presentation and Awareness Month. So I'll read the proclamation. Or okay, go ahead. Yeah, sorry.
I'm Jennifer Miller. I'm a board member of a Sioux Land Coalition Against Human Trafficking.
Okay. I guess anything else you'd like to say?
Well, I just appreciate you guys reading this proclamation and working together in the community to end trafficking. This proclamation and the work we've done the last 4 years in the coalition is raising awareness about the problem and helping to prevent it. So thank you very much.
Thank you. So this reads, whereas the United States was founded upon the principle that all people are created with the unalienable right to freedom, and added the 13th Amendment to the Constitution making slavery illegal, and whereas slavery within the United States today is most often found in the form of forced labor and sex trafficking, which weakens our social fabric, increases violence and organized crime, and debases our humanity. And whereas this problem is found even within our community, and whereas every business, community organization, faith community, family, and individual can make a difference by choosing products that are not made by forced labor, by working to protect our young people from sexual exploitation, by addressing the problems of internet sex trafficking and pornography, and by becoming more aware of the problem and possible solutions. Now therefore, Woodbury County Board of Supervisors do hereby proclaim this month of January 2019 as Slavery and Human Trafficking Prevention and Awareness Month. All right. So I'll make the motion to approve the proclamation.
Second.
Seconded by Ung. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes 5-0. Anyone opposed, I should say. Passes 5-0. Moving on to item number 13. That's the approval of Chairman's 2019 liaison and committee assignments. So a couple mistakes were made. One of them is trying to keep everyone pretty much in line with where they were. So my apologies to Kevin Green there for, I gotta bring my paperwork back up here. There we go. That's item 13A. Anyone else have any concerns on those?
So were there a couple you're saying that you wanted to change, Mr. Chair?
District Health was Ung, and I went off. I think it may have said Taylor was on the website, so I'd either that or I hadn't clicked forward.
Okay.
So Siouxland District Health would stay Ung.
And was that your intention on the Health and Wellness Committee too?
Is that how it is currently?
You had that most recently, I believe, right?
I did last year.
Yeah, and then on the Safety and Security Committee, I was going to take Jeremy's place on that as chair. So there's 3 changes there.
And are you flying solo on that for the safety and security then?
No, Matthew, did you want to stay on that too?
Sure.
Yeah, okay. So no other changes then?
So just so we have them clear, it's Supervisor Ung on District Health and Health and Wellness Committee, and then Radig and Ung on Safety and Security?
Correct.
Yeah. I'd move it as amended.
I'll second it, and then also the creation change of committee form, does that go with that? We just need to add that or receive that or not? Well, that would be under the auditor.
It's supposed to be part of the approval, but I have one for the policy committee.
Okay, so there's one for the policy committee.
So they're all in this motion? Is that
Correct.
right, Matthew, is that what you're telling us?
I didn't make the calls, but
But I mean,
I advise Radig that this form exists to
Okay.
approve the special purpose committees. So I gave him one for the one that we share.
okay. So is that your motion?
My motion was just to approve the committee assignments as amended.
Okay, so we can do a separate one if you want.
Okay. All right, so motion by Taylor, second by Radig. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right. And then we'll go ahead and move to receive the creation change committee form for the policy review committee. I'll move that.
Second.
Motion by Radig, second by Taylor to receive the change of committee form, creation change of committee form. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 5-0. Now moving on to item B, that's the Haskell Avenue Bridge to Mobile Frontage Road. So we've had a lot of discussion on this over the past few weeks. Sorry, Mark, our engineer, could not be here. I'm sure he's really missing this meeting right now. But we had a meeting, Rocky and Mark and I, and with a couple city representatives from Mobile to discuss. We're trying to, I guess, donate a road to the city of Mobile, which is the Mobile Frontage Road. It's currently a county road and has been for over 100 years. It was never owned by the state, and therefore Mobile can't be forced to take half of it like was previously thought. It is 100-year-old concrete. It's in pretty rough shape, and it'd be kind of like giving somebody a broken clock radio as a Christmas present. So in the discussion, it was brought up that the Haskell Avenue Bridge maybe isn't as important on the horizon as they had thought. Personally, I had voted against that project the first time around. It was a 4-1 vote. That's why I was willing to bring it back up on here. And I would say after that time of the approval of that bridge, there's been a lot of information brought up that wasn't brought up at that meeting. I would argue basically that the bridge is, unnecessary as far as safety. Even the Sioux City Journal, I don't know where our journal writer went, but lives about a mile from the bridge, says that it's not a safety hazard. The one accident there was due to a person texting and driving and drove through the intersection and hit somebody. According to the DOT, there are 6 other intersections on this road that are more dangerous. And as far as the county goes, hundreds more that are more dangerous than that intersection. Doesn't make sense for the financial contribution. It's a $700,000 bridge project. We could do a bridge and a half somewhere else that maybe has a more substantial detour. I had to look at the mileage. It's 0.45 miles as far as a detour route to drive the additional triangular route. It's equivalent of about 780 yards, so less yards than were ran in the last game. Let's see, and then so safety money, distance traveled, it just, to me, doesn't make sense to do that project. So it's kind of a convoluted shifting of funds here, but you'd look at about 200,000 of the county road funding going from that bridge would go to the frontage road. It's still a county road. It can be funded by county road funding. The other 500,000, well, a portion of that would be used already for the demolition of the existing structure, and the rest would go to a bridge in the plan that was already scheduled and had been moved back. So mostly this is a shifting of funds. Mobile was looking to get around $350,000 for this project. I think they were looking at maybe $1 million project on frontage road as far as a project goes. So I was proposing to use over 2 years, $75,000 from lost funds in 2020 and 2021 to go towards that. I guess any questions or comments from board members first?
Dennis, may I?
Go ahead.
The money that we're going to use for that bridge, where was that money coming from? Was that coming from rural taxpayers?
Yes.
So if we're generally using $700,000 for a bridge that was out of plan, if you will, collected from rural residents.
Correct.
Okay. It doesn't make much sense to me to take half of that money and then turn it into a project in Mobile. I can see where a lot of people that live in the rural area would be quite upset to find out that that much money went into a municipal project. Further, on the lost money, I remember being in a conversation at Mr. Radig's $75,000 coming from lost funds over 2 years, totaling $150. There's still some argument on whether or not local option sales tax money should be spent in municipalities. I don't know that. I mean, we've gotten a couple of attorney opinions. Not even sure how I feel about that yet, but I'm just not at this point in favor of taking rural taxpayer money when we have so many issues out there in our secondary roads. Prices are going up, the road quality is going down, that I'm not at this point in favor of taking half of that $700K and turning it into a project in Mobile. Just simply for the fact that it's rural money collected to be spent in a rural area, in my mind. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, so my worry is about reversing course. Our county engineer made a recommendation at the time, and I disagreed with it. And I disagreed with it because he said, well, there are greater needs than this one, but I don't believe that that's the way you do business. We looked at FEMA money. There was an emergency need. It wasn't something where there was load limiting, simply unpassable. I mean, the bridge is out and couldn't be used. And at that time, leadership in Mobile made the case that this is absolutely a safety concern. Come out and see it, and brought supervisors out to look at it and said, you have to do this bridge. It must be replaced. And to not replace it would lead to increased accidents. And I don't necessarily, the Sioux City Journal writer's line of reasoning, well, there's only been one accident. Well, there's been a bridge there that entire time. The real test is when they're that bridge is not there. And maybe there are intersections that are more dangerous or line of sight, but I've heard from many Moville residents that are ones that are saying, this is what we advocated for, this is what leadership advocated for. And so we went against our county engineer's recommendation because we were listening to the leadership there, and then to say, well, no, it's really not that big of a safety issue after all, because we'd like to use this money on a frontage road project, feels a little bit like a bait and switch that, you know, this money is dedicated and so can we just use it here? So I have trouble with that. I share Supervisor DeWitt's concerns on using rural basic dollars in an incorporated area, and then we've used local option sales tax for property tax relief, and that fund's dwindling. And we've also used it in road maintenance. I worry about taking an extra $150,000. So that's my hesitation. I think it's good to look at. Appreciate Moville's proactiveness, but I'd have trouble supporting it for those reasons.
Well, legally, the road is a rural road at this point. And I know we've asked
So we could
them,
hand it over without encumbrance.
well, why would they take it if you're going to have the maintenance costs of a...
But what you're asking is not just allow them to take it, but allow, they want it to be improved upon using rural dollars in an unincorporated area. That's where...
Well, that's what it is. I mean, it's kind of like the bridge project in Pearson. It's in Pearson, but right now it's county road. We're going to do that bridge project with county, rural road funds. That's coming up.
outside of an incorporated area.
I believe it's in the incorporated area.
Is that the case, Ben, that the bridge is in the incorporated area and we're using? Okay. And I guess that goes to one other point that I think may set a precedence. If we have another area and there's a bridge nearby, an incorporated area, and they say, well, I know that you have this, but we'd like to take those funds, and your next incorporated area says, we'd really, over in Mobile, you took this $300,000 or $350,000 and dedicated it. Why not us? And this bridge isn't that important to us. And then you have a farmer or school bus driver says, well, it is. That's just my 2 cents. I'm one person.
I mean, do we have any other roads in this situation in the entire county that are essentially in a city's, right on the city's edge, almost like a main drag out on the south end of the city, but yet it's a county-owned road? We don't.
We have a number of roads that are extensions of farm to market that they go through the cities.
Oh, yeah, can you come to the microphone, Ben? Sorry. Yeah. You can't hide behind the pillar.
It's a good try, though.
Ben Kuzler, Assistant County Engineer. We have a number of roads which are farm to market extensions that go through a number of cities, but we also have 28 agreements on to take care of those roadways.
There's typically a shared jurisdiction on the road.
That's correct. But the section I think you're talking about, there's only a small portion of it that is within the rural.
Correct.
Setting, yes.
Yep. And then on the lost revenue side of things, local option sales tax, some of the point of using that is to generate more sales tax. And if you have a roadway that's easier to get to off of a highway, you should generate more sales tax from that kind of an investment. So really, it's more an appropriate use of local option sales tax funding than almost any of the other funding we do.
This was a hard enough decision for the board when this issue was discussed by itself. Kind of agree with comments already made that about shifting and setting a precedent, because I'd prefer we not consider separate projects in the same swoop like this and just decide each issue on its merits. If it doesn't make sense we shouldn't do it. If this other thing makes sense, we should do it. But I'm also concerned about the one-step action to change funding to something that, because of town or because residents or there was just a shift in, a change in someone's mind. In order for the board not to keep its commitment, I'd like to hear, it's a high bar to hurdle. So if there's anyone here, Mr. Chair, if we could ask for any comment from the public or any interested parties, I think that'd be helpful.
Sure thing. And out of curiosity, if you're unwilling to do it as a board already, then there's no point in using everyone's time. But go ahead, Marty.
I wanted to make a couple comments. I remember the hearings on this one. Everybody came and said what a safety issue it was. And having Remsen as my hometown, I've driven that road probably more often than I would like to say. And it is a dangerous intersection, just to the eye, and I've had a little bit of eye to do it. But the biggest thing was we were told it's a safety issue. We need you to take the one bridge off and move this one up to do it. And we agreed to do that. And took a lot of heat for it, and more so, I don't care. I'll go to public safety every vote I make. But now to come in and say, well, it's really not that big a safety issue. We'll do something else with that money, just doesn't sit right with me. If we're not going to do that bridge, then I say let's put that money to some other bridges.
All right. So, unless there's anyone that can shift the four opinions and.
Eric Nelson from Mobile. What's unfortunate here, and I'm sure the intentions weren't as such, but now you've kind of pitted the rural folks against the folks in town, and I don't think that it's an issue that we don't want those of us that live around Mobile, the frontage road jars teeth loose, and it's needed work for a long time, but this bridge was also put on the plan, and I think that some of the accident records could be a little deceptive, because one thing that, in my opinion, that it has happened is traffic has moved away from using that route, especially truck traffic, and it stays on D12 and skirts to the north, goes to the Rock Branch Corner Road and comes down to Highway 20 there. And so I think that that's maybe shielded a little bit. There's been a little rerouting, which is not going to be good for the truck stop in Mobile or for Casey's or the other businesses in Mobile. And I've talked to vendors that serve me have commented that they no longer, take that route because that wide swing with the semi, and I understand the employee of the Journal and driving a car around that intersection is one thing, but a loaded semi on that, over time, if you can avoid it, you end up trying to. But the unfortunate thing is just it's kind of pitted us against the folks in town.
Dennis from Mobile, Iowa. And first off, I'm going to call out the Sioux City Journal. He's never talked to one person that lives north of town, or else he would believe it's a safety issue and not a mile. It's not about miles. The meeting we had a year ago, Rocky called my wife on it, which I give him courage for. It's not about miles. It's still about safety. And I didn't think of that. You look at it, you drive around there once, it looks good. But it's just like the other day, Friday, we had a county vehicle down on the Bronson Highway with their flashers on, blinkers, and a lady rear-ended them, texting whatever she was doing. And it's the same way with that. People do not pay attention when they're driving right there. And that's where we get in trouble, is they come over the hill to the east, and all of a sudden there's a stop sign there, and they slide. We're bringing our trucks down from the south. We turn, we got a 65-degree angle. We got to stop. And then you look in the mirror, here's some guy coming out of town, almost rear ends us. It's still about safety. Plus, the second thing is, the bridge was approved, and I thank you guys all for that. And now all of a sudden, now it isn't approved.
Well, it hasn't even been a motion yet. So it's just,
I know, but I mean, but the Journal made a look. But like I said, I like to call out the Journal because he didn't stick around tonight because he knew, there's opposition to it, and he's, from what I've read of his article, he used the same article 3 times in a row. So, but I want to it's about safety. I travel it every day, and it's just scary. So thanks for listening.
Dennis. Dennis, I'm sorry, what's your last name again?
Rumor,
Rumor? Okay,
R-U-M-O-H-R.
thank you.
Thank you for your letter in the record. I read that, sir.
Hi, I'm Dakin Schultz, 1015 Tertam Street, Mobile. And I'm probably to blame for this as much as anybody, so I guess I'll tell you why this came up. It originally came up because I brought it up. The county had requested Mobile take half the frontage road. They petitioned City Development Board, and at that time I thought this is a perfect opportunity maybe to look at transfer of jurisdiction. I mean, that frontage road has been, you know, you mentioned it's been the county's forever. It was briefly US 20 from 26 to 58, I believe, but the land ownership, I think, has always remained with the county on it. There's really no incentive for it to be the city's. And if City Development Board did force the City of Mobile to take half, then that south half, there's really no incentive ever. So it's always going to be a county road. So I thought by requesting this be considered at least, that there would be an opportunity for both the city and the county to see benefit. I mean, first of all, you know, you look at the completion of Highway 20 and the possibility of economic development in these small communities. It's already happening. But frontage road is obviously one of those things that is not only a focus for economic development, but it's also the front door to the community. And you know, if it's good for Mobile as far as economic development, it's good for the county. And when you look at the amount of bridges in the north part of that, just north of Mobile, you've got a bridge at 150, you've got a bridge at Humboldt, you've got a bridge on Iowa 140 and Haskell. That's, if Haskell gets done, that's 4 in a 2 mile square. So there's a lot of opportunities to get around that intersection if you want to go around. I mentioned the safety as well. I went back and pulled accidents. Yeah, there'd been one at K64. There were 2 at Haskell prior to the closing in 2016. You can go up and down that. I think on 140 total, you know, aside from US 20, the intersection at 20 is a different story. You've got, I think 25 total. Actually, D12 is probably, I think, is your highest crash intersection, which is kind of counterintuitive when you look at the layout of that one. You know, you've got turn lanes wide open. Sight distance is fantastic there. Sight distance was reviewed on this one. It was done April 17. It exceeded the minimum requirements for 55 miles an hour. So, and that was done at the request of one of the landowners out there. So that's been reviewed as well. You know, this, when I talked to the board, talked to the city about this originally, you know, the idea of the county, you know, putting bridge money wasn't exactly what I was going for. What I did want, though, is some incentive for both the county and the city to, you know, I mean, it's a county road, and why should it be? It probably shouldn't be. But there would be, like I said, no reason for the city to take it. But if they were willing to accept the City Development Board, if, you know, if there was a ruling with no issue on that north half, with the completion of the frontage road project where each entity put in 50% of that funding, then the city was willing to accept the other half, the south half, and that's from Fair Street to 140. So that's what I was looking at, or that's what the proposal was that went to the city and ultimately to the county. So those were the reasons for doing it. And I was hoping you would consider it. It seemed like a win-win. You know, you folks get rid of some lane miles. The life cycle costs on Haskell, on the Haskell Bridge, and frontage road are no longer an issue for the county as well. So.
All right. Seeing probably no second to.
Somebody else wants.
Well, is it in favor or against? I mean, it doesn't, because, okay, I don't think there's even a second for my motion, and I haven't moved it, so there's no point. We'll just move on to item 14. Reports on.
I was going to speak too, but that's.
Well, if you're speaking in favor of the bridge, there's no point because we're not going to take it off the project. Or this item died for lack of any support.
So when is the bridge project moving forward?
I don't know. That's up to the engineering department.
Well, I wasn't like no, sorry, I'm out of context here, but last year.
Can you come up to the mic there?
Well, yeah, and I don't want to delay anybody here, but I just think back, I was here. My name's Kurt Nash. I live at Kingsley is my address, and travel that a lot. It's a safety issue. I'm not going to go on and on about this, but I got upset just the fact that we were here and we presented our case. We voted on it. I've got family that lives in town, my kids and friends, and it's really upset us because, you know, a handshake's a handshake. I do business my whole life, livestock, whatever, and my word's my word. That's what I live by. And we voted on it, we passed it, and then, I don't know, I haven't had a chance to talk to Jim Fisher, but I'm real upset with him for some reason. I don't know what instigated all this stuff. Been friends with him a long time. I've lived there my whole life, 4th generation. Hey, we all got to get along. And Mike, I can go a different route. We can reroute trucks. My biggest thing is all the semis that go through there. Livestock, grain. Eric made a great point. That's all it's about. I can go a different route, but I just think the reason I'm here is I shouldn't be here in my mind, and I'm glad to come. But a deal was a deal. A vote was a vote. That's the way it should be. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Ben, did you have an answer to the one question at all, or is that?
The bridge is ready to be wet. I think more look to make it spring or something.
Okay, so there's your question. Oh yeah, it wasn't in the microphone, but they said the bridge is ready to be let, so you'd be looking at late spring. So
So we are moving forward with this.
yeah, yeah. It was just a look at reconsidering the project, and no interest in it, so it dies. Does that make sense?
As long as it is dead, I guess we don't have to revisit this again.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like any interest in it, so.
I do have one other comment, if I could.
Sure.
The one thing I want to stress is my problem with this was put the bridge money there. I happen to love what Mobile is doing in that town, and you're right, it's not right that being a county road sitting where it is, and it's in terrible shape. And I would hope that after we get by this issue, that somehow we can get the county and town of Mobile to sit down and start trying to come up with a solution.
And I totally echo that, because it's kind of a tragedy that the county owns such a dumpy road right on the edge of your city. It's
Yep.
yeah, it's like blighting.
I just want to get the bridge issue out of it, and then,
So
I hope we can do something there.
all right, so moving on to item 14, reports on committee meetings.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So Rolling Hills has a meeting in the next 2 days from now to sit down with all providers and to go over different long-range plans as relates to new core services being stood up. So I'll come back with a report there. I'm not able to make that. It's pretty much the full-day meeting, but I'm going to be in contact with Dawn and provide a report back to you all.
Sounds good. Anyone else have some first of the year committee meetings?
It's not a committee meeting, but I already told Ms. Strong that I won't be able to make the WCICC tomorrow.
All right, moving on to any other citizen concerns not on the agenda. All right, moving on to board concerns.
I just wanted to make the board aware I've got some military commitment in Romania from 30 May to June 21. So be a space of time.
All right.
Thank you.
Have fun.
Anyone else? All right. Seeing no other concerns, we're adjourned.